And it's time to get to the business news now with Nicholas Poynton. Nicholas, let's start with the RBNZ. So they've unveiled the latest weapons against COVID. Fill us in. What's in the ammunition?
Yeah, so look, the LVR maybe stole this announcement's thunder today, but at its final monetary policy statement for the year, the RBNZ says its new funding for lending program will come into force next month. You're probably wondering what that is. Well, the scheme is where the central bank essentially loans money to the retail banks at the official cash rate, 0.25%, and this money is then there for the retail banks to go and lend to its customers. And the whole point of this is to keep a lid on those interest rates, ensure there's an adequate supply of credit throughout our financial system, and to empower banks to be bold in their lending and push back against those prevailing concerns in the economy. That is rising unemployment and falling inflation, those deflationary pressures. And the scheme itself, it's sort of relatively simple in terms of its conditions. The money will be available for banks to borrow for about 2 years, and they will be able to, and they'll have to repay it after about 3. And interestingly, there are no real strict conditions that surround this program. There were calls from some bank economists for the Reserve Bank to put some specific incentives there for banks to lend to small businesses to really help stimulate the economy, but there was no mention of this here. The RBNZ says targeting specific sectors, that's for government to do. That's the role for them. It's not within its remit. It's of the mindset to really keep this scheme simple and trust the banks will choose how best to lend the money. So it does remain to be seen if we will send this money be lent to more and more for mortgages and that sort of thing, or banks could also just pocket the money and pay it back in 3 years' time. But in terms of the outlook for monetary policy here, it is worth mentioning that given that our economy has recovered better than expected from COVID-19 by all accounts, and we now have this new program. We do have the large scale asset purchase program, which is essentially money printing. There is a general view emerging here that we will not see. It's reduced the chances of a negative official cash rate. It just might not be needed at this stage, but we won't hear any more about that until next year when the Monetary Policy Committee meets again in February.
And what's the deal with Mainfreight? They're going great guns, are they?
Yeah, the country's largest transport company has delivered on its earlier guidance, and it has posted a mighty half-year profit, and this comes after a really slow start for the financial year for them. Its net profit, it was up by almost a quarter to $72.9 million. That was on the back of strong trading both in Australia and New Zealand. Revenue for the company, it hit $1.6 billion. It was up nearly 9%, and this was as its market share really grew in Australia, and also that's been benefiting from increasing consumer demand for products, which means more and more businesses are moving stuff around the world. And this is just, look, this company, it's been one of the stellar performers we've seen, New Zealand performers we've seen throughout the pandemic, and it just keeps on going. Yes, it's been disrupted by the impacts and global congestion, but it says it's been handling that pretty well. It says it's been talking to its customers, it's been advising them to make those orders way in advance and account for the fact that their items may be coming in late. Looking ahead, the company, it acknowledges the fact that because of such strong demand, it's actually had to go out and starting to buy more land and build more warehouses because its customers want space to keep their products. So on the back of this, though, surprisingly, quite a positive result. Its share price did slightly fall today, maybe hinting that investors didn't really see enough here from the company in terms of its outlook.
Okay, and what else has been going on the market? Well,
the NZX, it's closed up at another record high. It's up 53 points today at 12,665. Our dollar, it's up almost 1% to 68.8 US cents, 94 Australian and 51.9 British pence.
Thanks, Nicholas. Nicholas Poynton with Business News.